This story takes place in the summer of 2012. I'm a male, and I was 25 at the time. I was living by myself in a one-bedroom apartment that I had recently moved into after a messy divorce. It wasn't fancy, but I was pretty proud and happy to be living on my own once again. My apartment was located in a suburban part of the city that I lived in Missouri. One night, I had finished a closing shift at a local restaurant where I was an assistant manager. It was around midnight, and I was looking forward to a night of Comedy Central and beers, seeing how my schedule rendered me a night owl. I returned to my apartment, took a long shower, and turned on the TV after opening my first cold one. I stayed up till around 3 a.m., watching stand-up comedy and drinking. I eventually turned the lights out and left the TV on as I drifted to sleep. Now, to give a visual, my apartment was on the second floor. The only window was in my bedroom, and there was a sliding glass door in the living room that led to my balcony. The front door led directly outside, and there's no way of seeing out that particular side other than a small peephole in the door. Around 4 in the morning, I was suddenly awakened by a frantic pounding at my front door. I'm talking constant beating that seemed like someone was trying to break the door with their fists. I immediately sprung up from the couch and ran to the door, wearing only a pair of basketball shorts. I looked out my peephole, and there was a silhouette by the orange glow of the security light. The figure looked to be that of a small girl. I freaked the fuck out, but I thought that maybe she was in some kind of trouble. Here's where I made a big mistake. I slowly and quietly unlocked the door to investigate. She then immediately turned the doorknob and threw her body weight into the door, forcing it open, and me against the wall. The only light on at the time was from my TV, and the next thing I knew, this girl was stumbling into my apartment like a zombie. I quickly turned a light on to see a dark-skinned, dark-haired girl, probably in her late 20s. She was about 5'4", maybe about 110 pounds, soaking wet. She wore a tank top and shorts. I'm not a big guy. I'm around 5'10" and 155 pounds, but I arrogantly consider myself physically superior to her. She turned towards me, and her eyes were closed. I immediately grabbed her by the arm, saying, "What the hell are you doing? This is my place, and you need to leave." She replied, "I have to come in. I'm cold." Now mind you, it's the middle of August, and well, not cold at all outside. After I got a hold of her arms, I was amazed at the strength that she had. I was trying to imagine what was going on with her. I managed to get around behind her and pin her arms back, and attempted to drag her out of my apartment. I was in no position to call the cops, seeing how my hands were full, and I had no idea where my phone was. As I began to drag her out, saying, "You need to leave now," she flung her head back into my face, bloodying my nose and lip. I maintained my composure and went outside to ask my neighbor for help. The only problem was that my nearest neighbor was directly across from me, and their door was wide open, and the other surrounding apartments were vacant. She remained in my apartment, just standing there, facing me with her eyes closed. She yelled, "Come in here." I replied, "Okay, I guess I will." I re-entered my apartment, and this time a little angry but mainly just confused. I once again grabbed her by both arms, blood streaming down my face and neck. This time I wasn't letting her fight back. I dragged her outside, and she put up a little resistance. I took her inside the apartment across from me, believing this was where she lived. After all the other apartments around me are empty. There appeared to be a tall, skinny Caucasian man passed out on the floor. I called for him, and he just moaned. After she was inside the apartment, I sat her down, and I figured that I would be a gentleman and introduce myself. "My name is Jonathan, and you are?" She just shouted, I'm cold. I ran back inside my apartment and locked my door. I found my phone between the couch cushions and called my apartment manager. The manager lived in the complex and had given me his cell phone number in case of an emergency. After telling him what happened, he seemed just as shocked and angry as me, and he said that he would handle it. Next thing I knew, about 3 cops, an ambulance, and the fire department were lining my street, lighting up the whole block. The police knocked on my door and took my statement, while the apartment manager fixed me an ice pack for my busted face. I declined medical attention as well as pressing any charges, seeing how whoever this girl was, she was not of sound mind when she did this. The police told me that she was under the influence of alcohol and who knows what else. She ended up going to the hospital, and I never found out what happened with the man passed out on the floor. Naturally, I didn't sleep for the rest of that night, and all I can say is, crazy, druggy sleepwalker, let's not meet again.
My name is Steve, and this happened 2 years ago. I worked as a police officer. I don't want you to think that I'm full of myself, but I was the best of the best at my job. Well, that's what my coworkers told me anyway. To tell the truth, the reason I became a police officer was because of my parents. When I was 17 years old, they were murdered by a criminal who never got caught. After that happened, I decided to catch him myself, then, finally, became an officer of the law. One day, I got a report that a serial killer who murdered 20 kids and their parents was located nearby. I went to the scene as fast as I could to capture him, but it was too late. He was already gone. A week later, I was drinking coffee at a cafe before I got back home. About 5 minutes after, I got a sudden call from my wife, who was at home at the time with the children.
"There's someone in the house with a knife!"
She told me to come as quickly as possible, and I told her to lock herself in any room with the kids until I got home. I was about to come inside with one of my fellow officers. Just then, I heard my wife screaming and saw the man when I opened the door. I immediately shot him in his hand and saw it fly off onto the ground. The other officer knocked him out. I told my wife and kids to come out.
"Everything is safe now!"
I eased her mind and asked her how he got in. She answered that the door was broken when she came back home with the kids. After that, I was watching the news at my house. It was about the criminal who broke in and threatened my family. It said that he had raped multiple children before, and then I was shocked. According to the news, he was the same one who murdered my parents. I was terrified. I couldn't breathe. My hands were trembling. He was 39 years old back then and now received the death penalty. I'm so lucky that my family is safe from him. But I still think about what would have happened had I not arrived at the right time.